Hello everybody, this is Ken here with the Society News.
And Imelda reading the Society News for Friday the 12th of January 2018. Tuesday, Laura will be attending the Our Place drop-in session, which is held at the West Wight Sports and Community Centre in Moor Place, Freshwater, between 10 a.m. and 12:30 p.m. on Tuesday, the 16th of January. She will have information about the society, the clubs and activities available, as well as demonstrations of how some lower vision aids available. Come along and say hello and enjoy a free tea or coffee. And the dolphins are swimming this Tuesday on the 16th of January in Ryde at the waterside pool. The pool is closed to the public while the group swims. There are male and female volunteers to help you get in and out of the pool, as well as lifeguards to ensure your safety. To join the dolphins, please call the society first to notify us of your swimming ability. And on Wednesday, there's the weekly coffee morning at Millbrook House, Wednesday the 17th of January. The coffee mornings are not just for blind and partially sighted people. Anyone can come along and have a cup of coffee or tea as well as a piece of cake. The Owls will be meeting on Wednesday the 17th at 2 p.m. in Millbrook House. The speaker for this week's meeting is from Independent Arts, an Isle of Wight charity which uses the arts to improve well-being, quality of life and to reduce social isolation. The group lasts approximately 45 minutes, which is then followed by tea or coffee and cake. Thursday, the Knitters and Natterers are meeting on Thursday the 18th of January at Millbrook House. The group meets from 11 a.m. until 2 p.m. You can knit or just natter, and then later in the afternoon, volunteers come in and read to the group from different topics. And other news. Newport Parish Council will be holding a travel forum on Saturday the 20th of January, 10 a.m. until 2 p.m. at the Riverside Centre in Newport. The forum will inform residents on projects being undertaken to address and highlight transport, commuting and pedestrian issues for people who live, work and travel to Newport. Speakers include Councillor Julie Jones-Evans, Martin Gibson from Creative Interpretation, Cycle Wight, the Isle of Wight Council and ARC Consulting. Light refreshments will be available. For further details, please contact Newport Parish Council on 559 199 or email clerk@newportwight.org.uk. And we are pleased to announce that our 2017 Grand Christmas raffle raised £1,010 for the Society. Many thanks to everyone who supported the raffle by buying or selling tickets, and thanks also to the organisations who donated prizes. Congratulations to all the prize winners. I'm very sorry, I appear to have given you an incorrect telephone number. This is the Newport Parish Council number. It should have read 559 119. The Society's annual report and review for 217 is now available and can be accessed via our website www.iwsb.org.uk. It can be found via the drop-down tab marked About Us.
Scaffolding news. Please find below a list of known footway obstructions for works including scaffolding or hoarding. We are unable to include the dates as many are extending on a week-by-week basis. Also included are tables and chairs permits that have been issued in the past week. Bay and Ventnor area. There is currently scaffolding at 70 High Street, Shanklin, Cutting Edge 25A High Street, Sandown, Hamba House, Hamborough Road, Ventnor. There are currently hoardings at former Carlton Hotel, Esplanade, Sandown, due up on the 2nd of January 2018. Glenmorgan Newsagent, Regency, Shanklin. New scaffolding is due at 48 Station Avenue, Sandown, due up on the 22nd of January 2018. Cowes area. There are currently hoardings at 70 to 73 Arctic Road, Cowes. New scaffolding is due up at Red Squirrel Shop and Bella, 73 to 74 High Street, Cowes, due up 2nd of January 2018. Max Aiken Museum, 83 High Street, Cowes, due up on the 22nd of January 2018. Newport area. There is currently scaffolding at 38 Key Street, Newport, 18 Lugley Street, Newport, Fujifilm, 79 St James Street, Newport, Domino's, 41 St James Street, Newport on Bowling Green Lane. Scaffolding is due at Readers, 33 South Street, Newport, due up on the 12th of February 2018. 15 Albert Street, Newport, due up on the 15th of January 2018. Malthouse Court, Crocker Street, Newport, due up on the 15th of January 2018. Domino's, 41 St James Street, Newport, on Bowling Green Lane, due up on the 23rd of January 2018. Braunston House, Lugley Street, Newport, due up on the 24th of January 2018. Ryde area. There is currently scaffolding at Oasis Dental Practice, 9 Melville Street, Ryde. The Yarbridge, 99 New Road, Brading. The Star Inn, High Street, Ryde. 69 High Street, Ryde. 8 John Street, Ryde. The Leather and Suede Shop, 21A Union Street, Ryde. New scaffolding is due up on at the Leather and Suede Shop, 21A Union Street, Ryde, due on the 8th of January 2018. Castle Lodge, Dover Street, St Helens, due on the 12th of January 2018. Yan Woos, Union Street, Ryde, due up on the 15th of January 2018. Corner House, Church Street, Seaview, due up on the 19th of January 2018. We regret that In Touch, beg your pardon, is not available this week.
And so we go on to the Isle of Wight County Press for the 12th of January 2018, and there are two headlines. The first is Fobbed Off, and the second are Sailings to be Cut. And so I shall read you Fobbed Off. Baby Betsy died after mainland hospital blunder. The heartbroken parents of a premature baby girl who died after a hospital blunder have described how they were fobbed off by health bosses after her worsening condition. Betsy Rose Riley was born early after just 24 weeks on February the 7th, 2016. Her mum, Leander Collins, 30, was flown over to the Princess Anne Hospital, Southampton, to give birth. Betsy was initially on full life support, but within 12 hours was taken off oxygen and for the first 2 weeks of her life was defying expectations and doing well. However, Leander and her partner Neil Riley, 37, of Newport Road, Ventnor, noticed she lost grip in her fingers and suddenly stopped moving her arms. We questioned it straight away. We noticed a huge sudden change, but we kept getting fobbed off. We wanted to know what had happened to cause it, explained Leander. Betsy started struggling to breathe, was paralysed from the waist up, and tests revealed an abnormality in her spinal column that had not been there at birth. It was explained Betsy would never recover, and 5 weeks later, on March the 30th, 2016, she died. She weighed less than a bag of sugar when she died. At an inquest this week, Coroner Graham Short heard evidence from medical personnel at University Southampton NHS Foundation Trust that a feeding tube had been inserted incorrectly into Betsy's artery. An X-ray taken after the line was inserted did not reveal the mistake to staff. A post-mortem revealed Betsy had died of an infarction or death of tissue on her spinal cord and complications due to being premature. Mr. Short concluded that, on the balance of probabilities, the placement of the feeding line had led to the infarction. Leander added, "They never warned us there was a risk associated with inserting the long line. Betsy had an 80% chance of survival without having that procedure. It seems there was a number of errors, and it took months and months for them to tell us." Fundraising in Betsy's memory has raised an incredible £36,000. The money was raised through a sponsored walk and other fundraisers backed by Tesco, where Neil and Leander both work. The cash was donated to good causes that helped the family through their most difficult times. The couple have since had a baby boy, Oliver. A spokesman for University Hospital Southampton NHS Foundation Trust said, "Betsy's death was extremely sad and difficult for everyone involved with her care, and our thoughts remain with her parents and family. We will continue to offer them our full support and will keep them updated with changes and improvements made to minimise the risk of a similar error occurring again in the future."
Sailings to be cut. The arrival of White's new ferry, Victoria of Wight, this summer will bring winter timetable changes to the Fishbourne Portsmouth route. Sailings will be reduced from half-hourly to hourly most of the week towards the end of 2018, although the size of the ferry means more cars can travel on each sailing. As White's £30 million new ship joins the fleet, services have been remodelled. Due to Victoria of Wight carry around 70 more cars than the Saint-class ferries. There are no mezzanine decks for vehicles to navigate, so the new loading system, combined with an hourly service is likely to improve punctuality, with less chance of falling behind schedule, the company said. Chief Executive Keith Greenfield said new engineers have been employed to help avoid the problems of cancellations that plagued the ferry company last summer. Wight has responded to feedback from customers by adding more evening sailings and 50% more multi-link pass spaces for regular travellers. Wight new winter timetable for 2018-19 will be open for bookings in the next few weeks. Mr. Greenfield said, since I arrived at Wight 18 months ago, I have listened to customers and to feedback from the Transport and Infrastructure Task Force. They told me they would like to see more evening sailings in the schedule. Islanders with multi-link passes said they wanted more spaces set aside for those discounted fares on sailings from Fishbourne to Portsmouth. We are pleased to address both these issues in our latest timetable, which benefits from the environmental-friendly hybrid energy ship Victoria of Wight. Extra sailings will be scheduled for at busy times if there is the demand. There will be no changes in the timetables on the Yarmouth, Lymington or Ryde Portsmouth routes next winter.
Elderly slept on soiled mattresses. This article is by Emily Pierce. Widespread and systematic failings have been identified at a Carisbrooke care home where inspectors found puddles of urine in bedrooms and mattresses covered with dried faeces. Just weeks after residents were moved out of Fairview House, Clatterford Road, due to safety concerns, the Care Quality Commission, CQC, has published a damning inspection report, branding the home inadequate and placing it in special measures. The home descended into chaos during the inspection over 3 days in November, when the manager, a cook, a cleaner and several care staff walked out. Owner Oakray Care, which also owns Trent House Cows, Broadhouse, Hurst Sandown, Fairhaven House Ryde and Little Hayes Totland, said it had not decided whether to open Fairview. Oakray Sandia Gower said, "All our other homes provide care to a high standard with a dedicated management team who have spoken to all concerned people to assure them. One of our homes, Broadhurst, recently won an award for Best Island Activities Coordinator. We would never knowingly compromise our moral duty of providing compassionate care. However, we acknowledge there were many reasons why Fairview failed. Staffing levels were one issue, and we were constantly recruiting following the correct procedures. We have learned from the failings. It is an uncomfortable lesson and a reminder for everyone in the care sector." CQC inspectors found Oakray, which took over Fairview in June when it was rated good, had no effective oversight of the home. Most relatives said they were happy with the care, but the CQC found there were not enough staff to look over people. One staff member said they were run ragged covering shortages. Inspectors found some staff were not compassionate and residents appeared dishevelled some dressed in other people's clothes and left in uncomfortable chairs for long periods of time. One woman had not been dressed in a bra and repeatedly lifted her jumper exposing her breasts, and another had a catheter bag strapped to her leg in view of other people. Inspectors found dried toothbrushes, showing people had not been helped to brush their teeth, and one person had not received personal care for several days. Staff said Oak Ray had cancelled activities and outings. Medicines were not managed safely. Sedatives were administered without explanation. 2 people were hospitalised with suspected chest infections as they were not given antibiotics, and 1 person did not receive essential blood-thinning medication on 9 occasions, putting them at risk of blood clots. Staff did not know what signs to look for after 1 person fell and suffered a head wound. Staff did not act when another person lost a lot of weight. Inspectors found filthy toilets and bags of used incontinence pads left on a chest of drawers. The kitchen was dirty, prompting environmental health staff to demand immediate improvement, and the gas cooker had been condemned, leaving staff unable to prepare adequate meals. Neglect allegations were referred to the police, and although no criminal offences have been identified, the CQC may still take action. It has banned Oak Ray from admitting new residents to Fairview until improvements are made. In total, inspectors found 6 breaches of health and social care legislation. Residents told inspectors, "I've had to wait so long for the toilet. You call out, but it doesn't work. I dread that, as I never know how long it will take. I always get told, you'll have to wait." Some staff are nice and some aren't. They shout at you, and they're rough when they help me undress. It makes me feel awful. I sometimes don't get my bath. Staff say, "Sorry, not today."
Carer got jobs using forged qualifications. A carer faked 23 qualifications to work in island care homes, and even delivered training to hundreds of other staff. A tribunal found Ian Wright of 39 of Newport was employed as a trainer and nursing auxiliary at Inglefield Nursing Home and a care supervisor at Little Hayes, both in Totland, after providing fraudulent certificates. He was also employed as a trainer for Buckland Care, which owns Inglefield and several other homes. Mr. Wright ran fire safety, dementia awareness and safeguarding courses through his own company, Isle of Wight Training Limited, since dissolved. He was not qualified for. A Health and Care Professions Council tribunal has upheld dishonesty and misconduct allegations. It found the restraint abused his position of trust, demonstrated a persistent lack of judgment and a complete disregard for residents, colleagues and the public, choosing instead to put his own interests first. The public would be extremely concerned to learn The public would be extremely concerned to learn a registered healthcare professional working with vulnerable residents had compromised their safety and well-being, and by the prospect of a healthcare professional securing employment on the basis of fraudulent qualifications. Mr. Wright previously worked at St Mary's Hospital and was registered with the HCPC as an operating department practitioner. Someone who provides care and support during the surgical operations, but has now been struck off. The ruling means that he cannot work as an operator department practitioner, but it does not prevent him from working in care homes. Mr. Wright was exposed when he applied for a training assistant manager job at another Hotland care home, Eden House, and the then manager realised his diploma certificate was fake. After checking with the training provider and awarding body to confirm her suspicions, investigations carried out by his previous employers found he had submitted another 22 fraudulent qualification certificates. Despite his misconduct, Mr. Wright was described as a good carer and a team member with a previously unblemished record.
Ireland faces 6% council tax hike. Council tax on the Isle of Wight may have to rise by 6% this year. Isle of Wight Council Deputy Leader Councillor Stuart Hutchinson revealed the news at a meeting of the authority's Scrutiny Committee on Tuesday. The council is facing a £7.5 million black hole in its finances this year, and difficult decisions will have to be made, the meeting heard. The feared rise comes after a 2% pay increase scheduled for council staff and rising social care costs. Councillor Hutchinson told members inflation was also running at 3%, making some decisions nigh on impossible. Meanwhile, council tax benefit looks set to be cut again under one option to go before councillors on Wednesday. Low-income claimants can currently get 80% support towards their council tax bill, but under the proposed change this could fall to 70%. The change will only affect working-age claimants and not pensioners. The council would also continue to offer its exceptional hardship fund to those in most serious difficulty. Council leader Councillor Dave Stewart said, "It is with a very heavy heart that we are having to consider this option, but it is important to note we went out to consultation on local council tax support between August and October last year, and the majority of respondents supported a reduction from 80% to either 75 or 70%. 4 years ago, local council tax support was fully funded by central government, but since then there has been a £6 million fall in central funding." Councillor Stewart says, "The council has been placed in a very difficult position of providing a scheme to protect low-income households while central funding is cut year on year, and we were still required to provide support to pensioners as in 2013. In terms of the council's overall budget, we are engaging collaboratively with all opposition groups on the council to ensure we are open to a wide range of ideas and suggestions."
Councillors' allowances to be frozen. The allowances paid to all Isle of Wight councillors, $7,700 a year, looks to remain the same. The Council's independent remuneration panel has recommended the basic allowances and most of the special responsibility allowances paid to the cabinet ministers and community chairs remain unchanged. It is recommended Council Leader Councillor Dave Stewart receives a special responsibility allowance of £15,400 cabinet members and the scrutiny chair £7,700 and the planning chair £6,160 on top of their basic allowances. The panel has recommended other committee chairs and vice chairs receive between £1,540 and £3,850. Allowances have not increased for 3 years. The basic allowance is higher than the regional average of £6,416, but below the £9,038 average for unitary authorities. The total annual budget for members' allowances is £453,865. The recommendations are due to be discussed at Wednesday's council meeting.
Stadium plans submitted. Plans to relocate Newport Football Club to a new stadium on the outskirts of the town have been published today, Friday. South Coast Leisure, SCL, which owns the existing St George's Way ground, plans to relocate the club to land between East Cowes Road and Fairley Road to the northwest of the racecourse roundabout. SCL planning agent Paul Airy said, "We have listened to the needs of the football club and also to residents living near to the proposed new ground and modified the proposals in line with comments received. We believe this proposal will provide Newport Football Club and the wider community with a first-class and sustainable amenity. The plans can be viewed on the Isle of Wight Council's planning website."
Woman's unprovoked attack with a hammer. A woman attacked a stranger with a hammer and had to be physically restrained by police. Stevie Long, 29 years, appeared at the Isle of Wight Crown Court on Monday, charged with racially aggravated threatening to behaviour, attempting to cause grievous bodily harm and common assault. She denied attempting to cause grievously bodily harm, but admitted causing actual bodily harm, which was accepted by prosecutors, and pleaded guilty to the other 2 charges. Prosecutor Anthony Bailey told the court in the early hours of October 29, 2016, Long hit a young woman, Lucy Wisely, on the head with a claw hammer in a totally unprovoked attack in Nelson Road, Newport. Mr. Bailey said Long, who lived nearby, was in the street, clearly intoxicated, when a group of young people walked by. Long shouted at a member of the group, Jasmine Thorne, racially abusing her. Most of the group moved away, fearing for their safety, Mr. Bailey told the court, but Lucy Wisely approached Long. Long hit her on the side of the head with the hammer, and she ran away with blood running down her face, Mr. Bailey said. Mr. Bailey told the court a doctor's report said the injury was fortunately minor, but the attack could have caused a significant injury and possibly a fatality. When police arrived, Long lunged towards the officers and had to be physically restrained. During the police interview, Long said she had been at the Robin Hood pub, Newport, but was so drunk she could not remember leaving. She said her first memory after that was being in the police van. Mr. Bailey said Long had 9 previous convictions, including another alcohol-fueled violence. Representing Longding, Rufus Taylor said his client had been in an appalling abusive relationship, which she had now escaped. Long was trying to give up alcohol and had been working with support agencies, he said. She now lives in a very different life, Mr. Taylor said. Recorder Malcolm Gibney sentenced Long to 39 weeks in prison, suspended for 2 years, alongside 175 hours of unpaid work and 15 days of rehabilitation activities.
Julie beats blindness to win top UK award. Businesswoman Julie Grant, who refused to stop working after starting to lose her sight, has been named the country's top accountant. Julie scooped the Accountant of the Year title at the International Association of Bookkeepers (IAB) award ceremony at the House of Commons. She had to give up her career in banking, but undeterred, retrained with the IAB. She funded her studies by working as a cleaner, sandwich maker, and in a fish and chip shop, and set up a home bookkeeping business 10 years ago. I was very honoured to win the award. It highlights what is possible for a micro business to achieve, and hopefully it will encourage others to follow this professional path, said Julie, 56, of Porter Avenue, Shanklin. I would encourage any would-be business owners to give their ideas a try. Exceptional service is the one thing which keeps people coming back time and again. It's vital for accountants in a digital world to maintain face-to-face service. After losing the sight of her right eye, Julie has now started to lose the sight in her left eye too. She uses specialist computer equipment, which photographs documents and reads them to her, but said she was unsure what the future held.
Woman had drugs at festival. A woman caught with MDMA, cocaine, cannabis, and 200 canisters of nitrous oxide at the Isle of Wight festival was given a suspended sentence. Chantal Wight, 30, of Ranelagh Road, Lake, pleaded guilty to 6 possession charges and appeared before the Isle of Wight Crown Court on Monday for sentences. Prosecuting Anthony Bailey said White claimed the 200 canisters of nitrous oxide, also known as laughing gas, were to be shared with 3 friends. However, Mr. Bailey said even divided 4 ways, 200 canisters was a substantial amount. Laughing gas is now illegal under the 2016 Psychoactive Substances Act. On top of the substances found on her at the festival, White was charged with a further 2 possession charges when she handed herself in to the police in December with MDMA and cannabis. Defending White, Oscar Vincent, said his client suffered with anxiety and depression and was now avoiding drugs. Recorder Malcolm Gibney sentenced Wight to 30 weeks, suspended for 2 years.
Head criticises Ofsted. An island school is making a formal complaint of Ofsted about getting a requires improvement grading. Oakfield Church of England Primary School Ryde was previously graded good, but the executive head teacher and chair of governors have both expressed disappointment with the recent inspection report, which they claim is full of contradictions. In a statement, the school explained Oakfield was one of the first schools to be inspected under a new system where the inspectors do a desktop analysis of data before making an inspection. The school found this focus on historical data rather than progress to be contradictory. Oakfield was assessed as requiring improvement, which the school felt ignored the fact that it had a much higher than average number of pupils with special needs and starting points well below age expectations. The SATS results for pupils leaving in the summer of 2017 showed Oakfield achieved well above average scores in reading and average in maths, the school said. Outcomes in writing were more variable. However, the school said it could show good individual progress here too. The school's stated governors challenged the senior inspector about what constituted acceptable progress, but the only answer given was whatever their starting points, pupils should reach national age-expected levels by key stages 1 and 2, which the school felt was ignoring Ofsted's directive. Executive head teacher Laura Bosworth said, "Within the first 10 minutes, the inspection team stated outcome data indicated a school that required improvement and they would find it difficult to give any different assessment. The whole process appeared to be focused on finding evidence that supported that judgment and ignoring evidence that proved otherwise. As a result, we have ended up with a report that is full of contradictions." An Ofsted spokesperson said, "Ofsted does not confirm or comment on any complaints we receive. That said, we take all concerns seriously and consider them as quickly as possible." Oh, I'm very sorry. It appears we have to say goodbye to you now. So have a lovely weekend. I hope the weather's a bit less dull. But goodbye from Imelda.
And spring is on its way. Ken here saying bye-bye for now.
Daffodils in Rue Street. I'm Nottiston.
Good morning, I'm Stephen.
And I'm Den.
And we'll be reading the features section of the County Press this week, starting with readers' letters. And the first letter is from Dean Francis of East Cowes, headlined, "Police Cuts Go Deeper on the Isle of Wight." The Hampshire and Isle of Wight Police and Crime Commissioner is seeking views on an increase in the police precept to help maintain and restore policing in certain areas, according to the County Press on the 5th of the 1st of January. But does the island get a fair portion of the existing pie in its current relationship with Hampshire Constabulary? Before islanders are compelled to dig a little deeper, perhaps we should dare to question where we sit in the resource pecking order at the moment. Serious injuries and deaths on our roads occur at a comparable rate per 1,000 of population to those on the mainland, but as of mid-2017, the last of the island's traffic police specialists were withdrawn. The Isle of Wight police workforce, police officers, PCSOs and support staff is lower by 59% per 1,000 of the population compared to the mainland. Since 2010, the police workforce on the Isle of Wight has been cut back harder than anywhere, 41% here compared with a 23% force average. Hampshire Constabulary has only 3% of the force's police officers stationed on the Isle of Wight, when the island makes up 7.8% of the force's population across 10% of the force's land area. That's 0.6 police officers per 1,000 of population here, compared to 1.6 per 1,000 on the mainland. A level variation is understandable, but the crime statistics and other workload measures simply do not justify such an excessive inequality of provision for the island. And being an island, rapid reinforcement or specialist assistance are issues which take on a whole new timescale, only exacerbated if the local officers are already stretched. So unless Mr Lane can explain why, for example, we have 62.5% fewer police officers per 1,000 of population here than on the mainland, then I feel his appeal for funds may well fall on deaf ears on this side of the Solent.
Letter of the week. Old Guard really is old at 110, from G. Drudge, the chairman of the First Newport Isle of Wight Scout Group. Many readers will be familiar with the First Newport Isle of Wight Scout Group, the Old Guard. But what most will not probably know is that it is one of the oldest surviving groups in the country, and therefore, by definition, probably the world. Were you ever in the Old Guard, or do you know somebody that was? We are holding a reunion to celebrate our group being 110 years old in February. All former members are invited to come along to the headquarters to meet old scouting friends and colleagues, to reminisce and bring souvenirs, photos and memories for what is set to be an historic evening. This is a free event and you won't need a ticket, but we will collect donations on the door towards group funds. The reunion will take place on Saturday, February the 10th, starting at 7 p.m, and will be held at Wenders Hall HQ in Woodbine Close, Newport. The group museum will be open and old films, DVD footage being shown. Contact can be made with the group by Rod Bourne, the group scout leader, on 528181.
And now a letter headlined Valuable Record of Proceedings from Christopher Offer of Brading. I refer to the article by James Wolven regarding filming of Brading Town Council meetings in the County Press of the 5th of the 1st. As the amateur video maker concerned, I would like to thank you for publicising this important issue regarding the openness and transparency of local government. There did seem to be a glaring inaccuracy in the article though. It stated, "Many members of the public voiced complaints about the filming during the meeting." Reference to the video, which can be seen at tinyurl.com/btcmeetingvideos, all one word, confirms only one member of the public spoke about filming during the meeting. Her main concern seemed to be about publishing images of the public on social media, not about the principle of filming the meetings. You will see the video actually only depicts visual images of councillors and the town clerk, not the public. The voices of members of the public are heard, however, as what they have to say comprises an important part of the meeting. I am grateful for all the support I have received from Brading residents and others. The recordings, which I undertake free of charge, provide an historical archive as well as a reference for those who are unable to attend meetings or who have difficulty hearing at them. It seems a shame Brading Town Council seems unable to recognise their value and regards filming as a confrontation rather than a valuable resource.
The Care Dilemma, from J. Gibbons of Ryde. The story about poor care on this island, which was the County Press 29th of the 12th 17, is certainly depressing, but it may not be quite as bad as it sounds, because there is a whole dimension missing. How does the cost of care on the island compare with other regions? Perhaps, grim as it sounds, we are getting better value for money than other parts of the UK. Let's face it, we are a country on its uppers, having to borrow to survive, and we seem to believe we are entitled to first-class service at third-class cost. During Tony Blair's rule, measures were brought in which improved the service. More single rooms were mandated, more en-suites, wider corridors, etc., as a result of which a pair of perplexed elderly sisters who had always slept in the same room had to be given separate rooms, and residential homes were closed down in quantity. If we can't afford good quality care, we must take what we can afford.
Now, a letter headlined Brexit Analogy from Barry Green of Freshwater. There is an interesting analogy related to Brexit. You want to move house and so get details or a brochure of the property. You view it, and if you still like it, you put in an offer. If accepted, you proceed with the transaction. You get formal assessments of the property to the very minimum level, but if very expensive, these should be in much more detail because the risk is greater. Who would buy just on the hearsay of those trying to sell it to you? When you have sufficient information, you can then make a decision to proceed or withdraw from the purchase, maybe realising that improving your existing home is far more cost-effective than moving. If a democracy cannot change its mind, it ceases to be a democracy. That's a quote from David Davis, speaking 2012.
Info on Grandma. From Michael Story, P.O. Box 45, Alaro, Mallorca, 07340, Balearic Isles, Spain. I was born on the island, but went to London with my parents during the war. I returned to the island and spent the rest of my childhood there. I went abroad later on, and now have lived in Mallorca for 50-odd years, visiting on various occasions. However, all my known family are now dead. I vividly remember my grandmother, Rhoda Ellen Higgins, and would like to know anything about her. I can be contacted on the above address.
Hedge vandals from Robert Drover of Totland. Will the Police Council and MP please take action to stop the continuing vandalism perpetrated on our hedgerows? Conservation law is being ignored, at least in spirit if not in fact. A once beautiful amenity is slowly being destroyed, the environment and wildlife habitat degraded. Life is not all about cutting costs, especially when our heritage is at risk.
Accident waiting to happen from Mr. R. Mercer Lake. We went to Tesco's Ride on the Brading Road, and yet again the drain in the left-hand corner of the car park was overflowing, 2 or 3 inches at least deep, on the turn into the car park. Having complained numerous times to Tesco's, nothing is being done. Every time it rains, it happens. Someone caught unawares could have serious problems with their car, or it could cause an accident. I am hoping this letter will shame Tesco into doing something about it. We now have more supermarkets on the island, so buck up your ideas, Tesco's, or we will go and shop elsewhere and vote with our feet.
And now we have the Looking Back column, starting with 100 years ago, on January the 12th, 1918. A Ventnor resident received the Distinguished Conduct Medal for his work during the war. The news was celebrated by C. Lambkin and his wife. A party was held at the Royal Marine Hotel, where a number of wounded and convalescent soldiers from Underworth and Bonchurch convalescent homes were entertained. A Canadian paid tribute to the county press. Walter Williams of Oshawa, Canada wrote, while renewing his subscription, "You will be pleased to hear, although I have been away from the dear old land some 4 years, your paper is read by me with as much pleasure as during the first year I was in Canada. It is a real island newspaper."
75 years ago, January the 16th, 1943. A freshwater pilot was given the Distinguished Flying Medal for his gallant conduct whilst serving for 2 years as a sergeant air gunner in the bombers. Frederick Blute made numerous operational flights over Germany and occupied France. He was one of the crew of a Wellington which, after being severely damaged by anti-aircraft fire over Germany, made the 600-mile return journey on one engine. A council meeting discussed the provisional Sunday opening of the Freshwater Cinema for soldiers only. Councillor Dover thought the town ought to keep up the practice of not allowing cinemas to open on the Sabbath. He argued instead of going to the pictures, soldiers could take a walk instead. However, Councillor Murray said to open on Sundays would improve the men's spirit, and to suggest men who had spent 6 days a week marching around the island should go for a walk on Sunday was ridiculous.
And 50 years ago, on January the 13th, 1968, a permanent pumping station costing £12,000, that's £190,900 in today's money, was agreed for Ryde. The station was to be installed at Monkton Mead Brook, and the cost was to be shared equally between the council and the River Authority. A recommendation of the Public Amenities Committee only bucket-type chairs and not traditional deck chairs be allowed on Sandown Esplanade was criticised by Councillor Gray. He argued the bucket-type chairs were not suitable for many elderly visitors who preferred to relax in a deck chair. The council agreed to reconsider the decision after seeing both types of chairs on the Esplanade.
25 years ago, January the 15th, 1993. The Cowes seawall was washed away in a storm. Repairs to the defences were estimated to cost Medina Council around £10,000. 2 sections west of the Royal Yacht Squadron and east of Egypt Point fell into the sea. More than 20 oil-covered seabirds were rescued by the Isle of Wight's RSPCA inspector. During the previous week, birds and large quantities of oil drifted onto the beaches around the island. It was not certain whether the oil was a residue flushed from passing tankers or the remains of November's accident in northern Spain. The guillemots were washed, cleaned and taken to a bird sanctuary in Somerset.
And 10 years ago, on January the 11th, 2008, there was an angry response to the news 10 island post offices faced closure. Isle of Wight MP Andrew Turner said he had asked the post office to issue a full response, while Wright Town Councillor Henry Adams called it a disgrace and a farce. Village primary schools were also in danger of closure, as all schools were required to have a minimum of 1 class per year group. A hoaxer who made a false report of a vessel in distress and wasted thousands of pounds was branded crazy by the Maritime and Coast Guard Agency. Although the call seemed suspicious at the time, the Solent Coast Guard felt bound to use a helicopter to search the area around St Catherine's Point. The hoax cost £5,000.
Firefighters' heroic tales of daring do. Author Damon Corr is in his 23rd year of service with the Isle of Wight Fire and Rescue Service, but his interest in it now goes back to its very town roots. When he was recruited in the winter of 1996, a colleague introduced him to some dusty ephemera saved when Ryde's firefighters moved from the hallowed walls of the Station Street building to the new fire station at Nicholson Road. A slow burn of an idea started with a discovery among the meagre collection. It was a diary produced in typescript by a teenage fireman of Ryde during the early years of the Second World War. After 53 pages, the diary ended mid-sentence. Damon was determined to understand why, and what he discovered began a process of research into his predecessors that culminated with the production of his first book, Ready When Wanted, and volumes to come. They tell the many stories of Isle of Wight firefighters from 1850, tales that would have dimmed through the passage of time. Damon's research has involved speaking to a large number of local people, some former firemen and many of their descendants. Occasionally, original documents were revealed and shared. Weathered photographs added faces to the names, but the backbone of the research was the wealth of information concerning fires, administration, misdemeanours and relationships that emerged from the archives of the county press and other island and south coast newspapers. Local history centres and the marvellous volunteers that run them made significant contributions, Damon said. His skill in historical research was expanded still further by a parallel family endeavour that led him to discover that in every generation a direct line male member of his family had served at some point in the British Army since Waterloo. From his own service he traced back to his great-great-great-grandfather, John Corr, who fought and survived the Battle of Waterloo, the Cyprus Emergency, Greek Civil War, 2 World Wars, the Siege of Ladysmith during the Second Boer War, the Anglo-Persian War and the Indian Mutiny were attended in between. To date, research continues to complete the second volume, with more than 10,000 items discovered across the 100-year period. Ready When Wanted traces each year by chapter, with a few matters of special interest being extracted for special attention, such as the 1860s heritage behind the stop message, still being used by the modern fire service today. There is the career and life history of the profoundly influenced Sergeant Captain of Sandown Fire Brigade, James Dorr, 1854 to 1925, and the narrative, All the King's Men, of a notable conflagration that occurred in Newport on May the 28th, 1892.
As island towns and villages expanded and evolved, bringing buildings and people closer together, the fear of fire destroying not just one but many homes and tradesmen's premises was an ever-present during the reign of Queen Victoria. By 1850, only the major cities of the British Isles possessed an organised firefighting force, but tales of daring do and a capacity to save both property and lives influenced minds in the less affluent provinces, including the Isle of Wight. Mid-19th century island firemen were largely disorganised, variably uniformed and reliant on a handful of wooden-structured, manually operated fire engines pulled by horses, or, as often as not, by the men. Imbued with a spirit of adventure and philanthropic virtue to protect theirs and their neighbours' homes from the ravages of fire, the islanders' tactics and equipment had barely evolved from the blaze of November 1785 that destroyed 17 houses and took 2 lives in Newport. Victorian technological advances enabled the big city firemen to achieve improved results. Damon discovered that from the reports of these engulfing conflagrations, a few island men were sparked to action to do better with little to take on the political class that grimly restrained the growth of the upstart fire brigades and to focus the efforts of their men. Their exploits caught the public imagination both in action, in print, and later in competition drills following the formation of the Island Fire Brigades Federation and affiliation of some island brigades with the National Fire Brigades Union. To serve as a fireman was ennobled, and to associate with firemen was fashionable. Prince Bertie regularly stole away in secret to serve anonymously alongside regular London firefighters in a specially provided uniform known only to him, and the capital's fire chief, the legendary Air Massey Shaw. The latter was to become familiar with the island, conducting several visits at Her Majesty's request to advise fire prevention matters at Osborne. By the end of the century, local fire chiefs and their men achieved near celebrity status. The Langdons of Ryde, Captain Dorr, his counterpart Oscar Rayner of Shanklin, and Captain Wilstead of Cowes, and among the men the legendary fire engineer Ernest Hales of Newport, who bounced back from multiple falls from roofs and ladders. On February 27, 1879, Ryde Fire Brigade had sat down for its first formal annual dinner in the Justices' rooms of the Town Hall. At the top of the room, a number of glistening helmets furnished a handsome and appropriate decoration, behind which were displayed flags and mottos, the most conspicuous, according to the County Press correspondent, being one the brigade have always shown themselves entitled to call specially their own, ready when wanted, hence the apposite title. In addition to creating testament to firefighters of the island's past, Damon has decided all profits from sales of the book, available online to order in hardback, paperback or PDF download formats, are forwarded to the Firefighters Charity. Hard copies are available from www.blurb.co.uk/B/832-3-ready-when wanted.
My View by Catherine James. Bring on the Usherettes. The big Christmas cinema release was Star Wars: The Last Jedi. I, along with countless others, escaped the tedium of overeating in front of the telly with bickering or snoozing relatives by popping out to see it. My cinema of choice is the Commodore. This friendly picture house has stood its ground, whilst other old island cinemas have been decommissioned and demolished or repurposed as bars, costume workshops or pet doctors, or vets as we used to call them in the olden days. They certainly weren't all seen off by the tin behemoth that is Newport's cinema world. Some fell by the wayside back in the 1980s, presumably victims of the March of Progress known as video rental. Ask your nan. I'm old enough to remember when folks could enjoy a cigarette as they watched a cartoon, followed by the main feature. Pesky public health campaigners put a partial stop to that as auditoria were divided into smoking and non-smoking sections. The genius that came up with this segregation hadn't considered that smoke is free to drift wherever it pleases, so you still came out stinking of fags and with an improved chance of cancer. Now ciggy addicts have been joined by other fidgeters. When Cineworld first opened, at the start of each programme, a computer-generated woman, brimful of attitude, would bang virtual chatterers' heads together and high-kick mobiles from the grasp of their owners before crushing them with her bare hands. Nowadays, anti-phone films are far more subtle, the actual message lost in a convoluted story or a multiplicity-style narrative starring Kevin Bacon. I'd like it better if a massive pointing finger with a sign, preferably written in unequivocal capitals, popped up on screen which said, "Oi, turn your phone off. Yes, you, I'm not joking." And what's with the consumption of sweets and sticky pop? You're not a blooming hummingbird. Your heart won't stop beating if it's not perpetually fueled by sugar. Stop the interminable rustling and talking. Surely even you are capable of simultaneously keeping your eyes open and your mouth closed. In fact, you might find it easier to concentrate on the film if you weren't hopping up on Haribo Tanfastics and having to pop to the loo every 5 minutes to empty your pea-sized bladder distended with fizzy drink. I had intended to write an analysis of the costumes in Star Wars The Last Jedi, but somehow I've digressed onto my well-worn rant about fellow cinema-goers. Apparently it was the same with the introduction of the talkies. People had to be taught not to yammer through the film as they needed to hear the dialogue. The more things change, the more they stay the same.
Now a column headlined "Playing Around with Numbers" by Jim Gibbons. The head of Year 8 in St Hooligan's School for the Disaffected looked at the figures and sighed. "I wish we could get these figures up a bit. Our salary review's coming up shortly." The head of mathematics looked at the figures his companion had been bemoaning. Group A had averaged 60% and Group B 70%. "We might be able to do something. If we reclassify some of the pupils from one to the other group, we could raise both those figures." His companion looked at him as if he had just volunteered to turn lead into gold. "We can improve one, but that would surely make the other worse. What do you think? If we can take out one or more pupils with scores of less than 70% from Group B, then Group B's average must rise. If their score is more than 60% and we transfer them to Group A, then Group A's average must also rise. To illustrate this, suppose Group B consists of 5 pupils with scores of 68%, 69%, 70%, 71% and 72%, the average of the group therefore being 70%. If we remove the pupil whose score is 68%, then Group B's average becomes 69% plus 70% plus 71% plus 72% divided by 4, or 70.5%. If Group A's scores were 58%, 59%, 61% and 62%, that's an average of 60%, and we put the pupil removed from Group B into Group A, then Group A's average becomes 58% plus 59% plus 61% plus 62% plus 68% divided by 5, or 61.6%. Thus, both groups' averages have gone up, though the individual pupil scores have not changed. So whereas the average of the two groups was 65%, said the year head, and now it's over 66% overall for the same pupils. The maths man said, "Definitely don't quote that. An average of averages has no validity." Other examples of this can be found by searching for the Will Rogers paradox on the internet. When a rich old man, noted for his sometimes cruel sense of humour, died, and his will was to be read out by the executor, two of the hopefuls in the room, Alf and Bill, were told they were not major beneficiaries. However, said the executor, you have not been forgotten. There are 2 envelopes here, one for each of you with your name on. Both have money inside, and I can tell you, one of them has twice as much as the other. Although your envelopes are identified, I am to tell you that you may, if you both agree, exchange them before opening. Alf reasoned thus. I don't know how much is in my envelope, but I suppose it's £100. That would mean Bill's envelope has either £50 or £200, both possibilities being equally likely. If it contains £50, I would lose £50 by exchanging, but if it has £200, I would gain £100 by exchanging. The possible gain is twice as much as the possible loss. Bill reasons in the same manner, and they do exchange. Were they right to do so, and are they not effectively in the same state as they were before, and might reasonably exchange back again? What is wrong with their reasoning? Here, again, you can find a discussion of this on the internet. Search for mathematical paradoxes. One last topic, then you may go back to sleep. I once spent the best part of an afternoon trying to explain to my managing director in a discussion about discounts if you start with a sum of money and add 10% to it, and then deduct 10% from the result, you end up with less than the figure you started from. When he'd finished worrying that like a dog with a bone, I made the mistake of saying if you did it in the reverse order, that is, if you started with a sum of money and deducted 10% and then took the result and added 10% to it, you still end up with less than you started with. And the discussion started all over again.
This is What's On. Silver Swans ballet class for the over 55s takes place on Friday at Key Arts, Newport, from noon until 1 p.m. No experience is necessary. For further details, call Suki on 079 4050 3971.
And a singing day is being held at North Court House, Main Road, Shorrow, tomorrow, that's Saturday, between 10 a.m. and 4 p.m. Ride Chorus will be singing some old favourites as well as Mendelssohn's Hymn of Praise. Tickets are to be booked in advance at £5 from John Harrison on 01983 740 415 or by the internet from john@northcote.info.
Action on Hearing Loss will be holding its monthly drop-in session at the Arthur Webster Clinic, Landguard Manor Road, Shanklin, between 10 a.m. and noon today, Friday. Visit for advice, batteries, cleaning and retubing of NHS hearing aids. No appointment necessary. For more information, call 529533.
And an information point drop-in takes place for Citizens Advice Isle of Wight and Aspire Ride information point at Dover Street Ride between 10 a.m. and 12:30 p.m. every Wednesday. That's open to all members of the community.
Vocal group session Ventnor Sing About returns after its Christmas break, starting today, Friday. The group, designed to boost health and well-being and improve breathing, memory and confidence, meets every Friday at Ventnor Baptist Church, Pier Street, from 10:30 a.m. to 12:30. It does say p.m. Yes, that would be right. Yes, sorry. New members always welcome.
And now news of a top violinist to guest with an island orchestra. Virtuoso Swiss violinist Melina Mandozzi will be the guest soloist when the Isle of Wight Symphony Orchestra performs its first concert of the year at Newport's Medina Theatre. Mandozzi, who studied under legendary violinist Yehudi Menuhin and who made her debut performance with the Royal Philharmonic Orchestra aged 12, will be performing on the island next Saturday, January the 20th. During the concert, Mandozzi will play Elgar's Violin Concerto, first performed by Fritz Kreisler in 1910. The programme will also feature Shostakovich's First Symphony, which will dominate the first half of the concert. The show, in support of the island's independent lifeboats, also includes John Ireland's Epic March, which was commissioned by the Ministry of Information as part of its aim to foster community spirit during the Second World War. The concert starts at 7:15 p.m.
Ireland's Hidden Heroes. A series of talks about the hidden heroes of the island has been launched as part of a collaborative exhibition by the Isle of Wight Museums and Galleries. The Isle of Wight Hidden Heroes project is a celebration of the remarkable people who have lived here. On Wednesday, Martin Munt will be giving a talk about Britain's greatest dinosaur hunter, the Reverend William Fox, 1813 to 1881, at the Anthony Minghella Theatre, Key Arts at 7:30 p.m. On Thursday, Richard Smout will tell the stories of Jane Squibb and Elizabeth Walbridge from Annals of the Poor, and how they were catapulted into fame after their deaths, at the Anthony Minghella Theatre at 7:30 p.m. On Monday, January the 22nd, Islander Andy Stamford Clark, Chief Technology Officer at IBM UK, will talk about his inventions and the Internet of Things at the Anthony Minghella Theatre at 7:30 p.m.
Now news of a season of comedy, verse and stories. Stand-up comedy and theatre will figure prominently as Ventnor Exchange celebrates its third birthday with a programme of events to cater for all tastes. Ventnor Exchange, created by the team behind the Ventnor Fringe Festival, will be bringing in Parisian-trained Rum and Clay Theatre to perform Dario Fo's Mister O'Buffo on Wednesday, January 24th. Packing in more than 100 characters, the show will offer a humorous and controversial view of the Bible's best-known stories. As part of National Storytelling Week, Taffy Thomas, a former storytelling laureate, will be baffling the brain with riddle folk tales and simple riddle challenges with his show Riddle in the Tale on Thursday, February the 1st. Thomas also offers the chance to see his famous tailcoat in action, a unique working piece of art with each image on it linked to a story. There will be a tribute to cult singer-songwriter Tom Waits entitled The Piano Has Been Drinking on Saturday, February the 3rd. There will also be cult comedian Rob Orton with his latest offering The Hair Show on Thursday, February the 15th, and Jessica Fostikiv, who can currently be seen on BBC television comedy Motherland, on Thursday, March the 8th. Another notable event to look out for will be a performance of Carry On Jaiwick on Sunday, March the 11th, a play that looks at the lives of those living in rural coastal Essex, using interviews with the residents to look at a community that feels forgotten. The venue will be bringing back multi-award winning poet and performer Luke Wright, who blew audiences away with his first full-length verse play, What I Learnt from Johnny Bevan. His new performance, Frankie Va, will be on Wednesday, March the 21st. Ventnor Exchange's artistic director Jack Whitewood said, "We've been gradually developing a name for our programme of new work, not just locally but further afield. We're now attracting some of the brightest new talent from the worlds of poetry, comedy, puppetry and theatre. It's really exciting to see this happen, and as with the Ventnor Fringe, all of the artists love visiting the island. During 2018, we'll be inviting more artists than ever before to perform. Our aim is to bring cultural experiences to more people and use this as a catalyst for wider change."
This is a list of events on at the Medina Theatre. Dance to the Music on Saturday the 27th of January at 7:30, tickets from £26. Cinderella, the Wight Strollers present. This is Saturday the 10th of February, 2:30 and 7:30 p.m. Sunday the 11th at 2:30, Sunday the 17th of February at 2:30 p.m. and 7:30 p.m. Tickets are £9 and £8 for under 14 years. Scylla and the Shades of the 60s, Friday the 2nd of March at 7:30. Tickets are £19 and £17 for seniors and juniors. Bob Marley, Legend, the music of Bob Marley, Friday 9th of March at 7:30. Tickets £20. The Travelling Wilbury Experience, Saturday March the 10th at 7:30. Tickets £22.50 or £20. And Rocket Man, the music of Elton John, Friday the 16th of March at 7:30. Tickets £19 or £18.
And now a couple of short news items. First one headlined, Lucky Louise wins car and cash. Island mum Louise Jones got the New Year surprise of her life when she landed at Gatwick Airport and was presented with a new Range Rover worth £65,000 and £20,000 in cash. She was reduced to tears after she was greeted at the arrivals lounge by Christian Williams of the Best competition, who handed her the keys to the gleaming Range Rover Sport. Best of the Best is a competition similar to Spot the Ball, where people have to guess where a ball is in a sporting contest. Louise, aged 45, of Shanklin, and her husband had a go at the airport on their way out to Mallorca. Louise said, "It's absolutely amazing. I've never won anything in my life, so to win this really is a dream come true." She added, "My husband has played a few times at Gatwick before, but this time we both played. Obviously I had the winning touch." Within minutes of her win, Louise called her 3 sons to share the fantastic news with the whole family and began choosing the specification for her new dream car as she was travelling on the ferry back to her home on the island. She joked, "I've already been asked by one of my sons if he can go on the insurance. I think he might have to wait a few years and stick to my old Citroen for now. We have already planned our first road trip when we pick the Range Rover up. We'll head straight over to Bristol to see our other son at university."
These are previous news items. 300 documents about floaty. Watchdogs will examine 300 documents to get to the bottom of the floating bridge problems. Isle of Wight Council leader, Councillor David Stewart, told the Scrutiny Committee on Tuesday legal reasons had curtailed how much information could be included in his long-awaited floating bridge report. Members agreed they needed to see the documents before they could have an informed discussion, and Councillor Stewart said there was no reason why they couldn't. Councillor Stewart has pledged the full facts about the project will emerge. Members heard further tests on the bridge would be undertaken at the end of January. A further meeting of the Scrutiny Committee to discuss the bridge has yet to be fixed, but will probably take place in February.
And finally, news that a man drove a car at a traffic warden. A pensioner has been banned from 6 months for driving his car at a traffic warden while she had her hands on the bonnet. When he appeared before Island magistrates last Thursday, John Milne, aged 72, of Ashley Road in Ryde, denied charges of common assault and failing to stop. He was found guilty after a trial. In her victim impact statement, the traffic warden said the incident had left her shaken. She added she had been doing the job for more than 14 years and it was the first time she had been driven at or pushed along the road by a member of the public. She said, "The only thing hurt is my pride," after crying in front of members of the public while in uniform. The incident took place on July the 6th last year at the corner of Newport Street and High Street in Ryde. A witness described how she saw the traffic warden at the front of the vehicle. She was moving backwards as the car pushed her. In a police interview, Milne admitted he had parked on double yellow lines outside a cash machine and had not displayed a disabled parking badge. He told police the traffic warden had put her hand on the left side of his vehicle and had at no time been in front of the car. Under cross-examination from prosecutor Anne Smout, Milne said the warden had demanded to see his blue badge, but he had refused. He said, "If somebody says to me, 'I demand something,' it does not go down too well. I was driving to get away from a confrontation." Milne was also fined £180 and told to pay costs of £300 and a £30 surcharge. And that's all from the County Press for this week. So from me, Stephen, it's goodbye.
And from me, Den, bye-bye. Have a good week.